Well, I'm delighted to be here today. Can everybody hear me? All right, awesome. So how many of you have stinking thinking, you think? Okay, how many know people who have stinking thinking? Yeah, everybody would probably raise their hand on that. All right, so I've been in this industry for a while. I have actually more letters after my name than are in my name at this point, okay? So am I really happy when PMI had the PDUs so you can kind of double dip? Okay, so someone asked me which one of these certifications is the hardest? And I was like, well, the PMI PBA, I was one of the first 180 in the world to get the PMI PBA in the pilot phase. And it took 8 weeks for me to learn whether I actually passed it or not. Yeah, that's kind of stinky, right? So these days, you can be able to pass the exam and know the results right away. But that's actually one of my areas of specialty is exam preparation. So what do you think when people are taking an exam? Are they excited? Or are they a little bit fearful? Anxious? This is when you're studying for an exam, when you're in a stressful situation, this is when stinking thinking will creep up right on you, right? I've had people that have been freaking out in my types of classes because they have to pass an exam to keep a job. No stress there, right? No stress at all. I've had people freaking out, running out the door, crying, and it's okay. I realize that this is a stressful environment. So how many of you have been in stressful situations? Raise your hand. All right, yeah, we kind of recognize that, all right? So this is here, what I'm gonna offer you is some ideas. I only have a little bit of time with you, so I can't cover everything, but I wanna provide you with some realistic things you can use right away to be able to analyze your stinking thinking. In other words, you're under stress and you're going, oh, what do I do now? Okay, so I'm going to give you some really good ideas. Now, a lot of these ideas are actually from an organization called the criticalthinking.org. So if you go to criticalthinking.org, a lot of this information is from there. Tons and tons of research has been done on critical thinking. And that's what I've extracted is some key things that you can use that are practical and real from the concept of critical thinking. Critical thinking is a competency of project management. Okay, so we want to be able to understand this a little bit more. And so I'm going to give you some definitions. We'll start out with a definition of what is critical thinking. So according to the criticalthinking.org website, okay, and the Institute, critical thinking is the art of analyzing and evaluating thinking to improve it. It's really about thinking about your thinking. Thinking about thinking. Have you done that lately? Okay, well, you're going to do that today. All right. So you're going to think about your thinking. And I'm going to give you some more definitions. Critical thinking is the art of, critical thinking seeks to improve thinking. How people analyze your thinking. They assess thinking and how they can upgrade your thinking. Because most of our thinking is stinking thinking. So there is a concept here that I'm going to briefly cover. I'm going to talk about some of the standards and the elements, and I'm not going to touch on the intellectual traits, but know that there are traits that are related to critical thinking. I'm going to talk about the standards and the elements mostly in this presentation here. So the problem is that most of our thinking is shoddy. It's biased. It's prejudiced. I mean, in this environment that we've seen a lot of that lately, haven't we? I mean, you just turn on the news and you've got some other story that's talking about all kinds of prejudicial, negative kind of thinking. And really, what is it that it's doing? It's costing us the quality of our life. It's increasing our stress. It's causing conflict. Okay, so we have to be able to understand what's the cost of this, and why should I be thinking about my thinking? What's the benefit of this? So I love this Chinese proverb here: a wise man makes his own decisions, an ignorant man follows public opinion. Man, I've been on Facebook. Boy, do you get a lot of public opinions on that, right? Or any of those social media sites. Everybody's got an opinion, okay? So we have to really say, what does that mean? I can appreciate the opinions, but is that my opinion too? And I need to understand that. All right, so secret number 1 is to analyze your thinking. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the standards to help us analyze the thinking. Okay, so there's 8 dimensions of critical thinking, and the elements or structures of thought enable us to take apart our thinking, to cultivate our mind, and to command these essential dimensions. So the first one we're going to be talking about is clarity, which is understandable. Then we're going to be talking about accuracy, because a lot of the reasons why people have opinions is because they don't have all the data. They don't have facts, right? So first thing I always ask for, I was like, okay, so where's the data? Where's the facts? Right? Because a lot of times we're just making an opinion based on maybe not even a piece of data. It's just somebody else's data. I, as a project manager, do not like it when somebody else collects the requirements, because I always question, are they really true? Right? Have you ever been a victim of that in projects where someone else has collected information and you look at it and go, where did this come from? Who did this? Okay, do I really want to stake my reputation on this information provided to me? So we're going to be talking about some of these things here and really analyzing the information. All right, so let's see how good you are. All right, I want you to take a look at these 3 statements on the left-hand side and match the statement to the kind of critical thinker. So what kind of critical thinker would say, I don't have time to think about my actions, how my actions might affect other people? Do you think it's number 1, number 2, number 3? 2? You are correct. That's a selfish critical thinker. They're only thinking about themselves. Okay? And I'm going to get to more details about what does that mean. All right, which one do you think says, I think a lot. It helps me learn? 3, a fair-minded critical thinker. Really what we want to get to is the point of where we're fair-minded. We're not only thinking about ourselves, but we're thinking about other people. Okay? What do you think? Number C? I do whatever occurs to me to do. Yeah, this is your naive critical thinker. They're not even thinking about thinking. They're just doing whatever. Okay, today I'm doing this, tomorrow I'm doing something else. All right. All right, so these are the naive, the selfish, and the fair-minded thinkers. And these thinkers are now actually broken down into subsets of thinking, because this is a stair-step process, right? You could be the unreflective thinker, but the ideal state is you become the accomplished thinker. And so there are steps to go from one to the next to the next. And all of us in here are somewhere in the spectrum, okay? So let's take a look and see, what does this mean? So a naive critical thinker, okay? The first one is here, we're just totally unaware of the significant problems in our thinking. Have you ever had teammates like this? You can like have the picture in your mind, go, oh yeah, that was Bob. Yeah, poor Bob. Okay, I recently actually, and sometimes too, it's not that people aren't thinking, they maybe don't have the experience, they don't have the understanding of what to do next, okay? I recently worked with somebody who was with a consulting company that I was working with, brand new graduate from college. How much experience do they have in the work world? None. Okay, yeah. So he's in the project, he's assigned to the project, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do with this dude? Right? I have to make him work somehow, but what can I, he has zero experience. So I gave him a spreadsheet, and I'm like, okay, can you take this data from a piece of paper and put it into do you know Excel? Yeah, I know Excel. Okay, let's put this into Excel. So he puts it into Excel, he sends it back to me. I'm like, oh man. There's this thing called spell check. Hello? I can't even read what he put into the spreadsheet. So I send it back to him like, try spell check on this, okay? And I understand. He's kind of in this naive state, right? He's there, and he's gonna, in a while, he'll learn these things, okay, as we're walking through him. And so these people are good-hearted. They're good-hearted, they mean well, but they kind of don't understand. They don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know what they don't know. So naive thinkers are usually unconcerned with development of their own intellectual capabilities. Maybe they don't try. Maybe they don't want to learn. They're easily manipulated. They're victimized by other people, right? Other people take advantage of them, and then they're just unaware. They're unaware. So we're hoping that they become a little bit more aware, and they go to the next stage here, okay? How does that hit you? Selfish, critical thinker. Ooh, that word selfish, right? Ooh, does that bite you? Okay, so what is this about? What is this about? This is about they manipulate less sophisticated people. You know anybody like that on your teams? Okay, they indirectly or directly harm each other. Have you ever been thrown under the bus? Backstabbed? Go, boo. What happened there? Okay? It happens, right? Anybody have that? Just me? All right? All right. So, yeah, these kind of people are walking around. They're self-righteous, unethical, and self-deceived. Really, where we want to get to is here, the fair-minded critical thinker. Okay? They are ethical. Empathy is key here. And just. What does just mean? What does just mean? Fair, doing the right thing. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, that kind of concept. This is actually a leadership principle, and this is why this particular course here is under leadership. Ever think about the best manager or leader you ever had? Hopefully you've had at least one, right? Would they fit this definition here, you think? Somewhere in here? Best manager I ever had. I worked at Motorola back in the day when it was Motorola. I worked in the supply chain management group, IT supply management group. And Nagesh Sridharan was my manager. Best manager I've ever had. You know why? Because I felt like he cared. He cared. Isn't that a cool thing? He says, I want you to get your master's degree. I'm going to make sure I get you the funding. I'm going to get you the support. I really think this is important to you. And at the time, I thought, I was a single parent, 2 young kids at home working full-time and thinking, how in the world am I ever going to go for a master's degree on top of this? But he made it happen. And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. I said, this man's going places, all right? Because he was an advanced thinker. I really watched how he operated in meetings. He would challenge people, but not to the point of making them defensive, right? He would have facts. He would have data. He would have recommendations, but he wasn't off-putting to people, right? And you sat there and you go, oh, he really is an accomplished thinker. He really has the intellectual skills and the virtues that I would like to have. That's really critical, right? Do you know people like that in your life? Where you look to them and you think, I would like to be thinking like them or running meetings like them or running projects like them, hopefully. If you don't, I suggest you get a mentor. Get someone who has the kind of skills that you would like to have. Okay, find someone like that. All right. So I'm going to do an exercise here with you. All right? And if you have some paper in front of you, this would be great. Here's the directions. We're going to focus on, I want you to think about a problem in which you caused someone else to suffer. Problems resulting from your being cruel or selfish or rude. Now, come on, we'll be real. Has this happened to you? Yeah, we've all done this. Okay, so think about a situation. As parents, our kids tell us, all right? You have parents, they might tell you, you're being selfish, you're being cruel. Okay? But think about it in a work environment too. And write down, I was unfair when I behaved in the following way. At the time, I didn't realize I was unfair because I thought, here's your thinking, now I realize I was unfair because, and to avoid being unfair in this way in the future, I will. So think about a situation and fill in the blanks. I'll give you a couple minutes to do this. Now, I'm not going to ask you to share, but if someone wants to provide an example, it'd be nice to have an example so everyone else can kind of hear, like, it's not just me, right? Because we've all got something. Anybody? Okay. Can you have a microphone for her?
I'm loud.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I work at a plant. I have to yell every day.
All right.
So a year or two ago, I had a product that we had just finished preliminary testing on, and we sent it to the customer. And I was a project manager for this. And I got a report back from Germany. So at 6:30 in the morning when I came in, I received a report that their testing did not go well. So I called a meeting for once the director and my manager came in, and my director started going down his thought process, and I cut him off because I knew where he was going. I'd already thought through that and knew that was a problem. So, which is a dangerous thing to do when you are not a director, to cut off a director.
Oh, okay. So cut off a director. All right.
Cut off a director, and at the time I didn't even think about it. Afterwards, I had a conversation with him, and I realized that I had 2 hours with that information. So I'd already made it down that thought process because I'd already gone through it.
Yes, yes.
So he and I had a conversation about that, and now I make sure that people have time in the morning with new information before I continue. And as a director myself now,
Yeah.
when people are more familiar with pieces of information, if they want to hurry up to their point, I ask them to tell me what their point is, so that I'm not like, you cut me off one more time.
Yeah, right.
Because that's not fair of me, because I've been in that.
Yeah. So that's a great example. And this brings into different people operate in different ways. So you like to get to the point, right? You got to get to the point. I have a husband that's like that too. He's an engineer. Yeah. And engineers are like, get to the point. Forget about all the grays and the color. I'm in the rainbows. And he's like, get black and white, get to the point. And I'm like, can you just listen to me for 30 more seconds? So great example. So as we get more empathetic and we realize other people think differently or operate differently or have to process information differently, then we can be able to allow for our thinking to be more fair, right? All right, excellent. All right, secret number 2. Secret number 2 is ask questions. Now, I've been teaching project management for almost 15 years, and I have to tell you, project managers are horrible at asking questions. Why? Because we assume. What happens when you assume? You make an ass out of you and me, right? Okay, and why do we assume? Because we don't want to look stupid, okay? Except we do stupid things, and then we look stupid later on, okay? But then we justify it. Well, I didn't have all the information. That's because you didn't ask the questions, okay? It's a circle thing. So here are the questions you should be asking. This is a matrix. Now, this matrix here is in no particular order. If you're stuck in a meeting, you're stuck in a team, you're stuck in a problem, the first thing you should always be doing is asking questions. And you could take this matrix and you could ask questions about anything where you're stuck at, anywhere, okay? So you might say, we're in the midst of a meeting. Have you ever been in a meeting that sucks? Raise your hand. Right, you're in the midst of the meeting, you're going, and why are we here? Right, we lost the agenda, maybe it didn't even have an agenda. The agenda should have a purpose on it. Maybe you didn't have an agenda. Maybe that's the reason why. And you kind of have to regroup and go, can we just figure out why we're here now? Or you're in the midst of the project and it's kind of going off the rails and you're trying to figure out what are we supposed to be accomplishing here? There's a difference between a goal and an objective, by the way. A goal is broad, right? Let's increase customer satisfaction. An objective is specific. What are we specifically going to do to increase customer satisfaction? We're going to specifically reduce the number of errors that are on the website, I don't know, by the end of this year. It's specific, okay? We have to be clear. We have to understand what is the key question we're trying to ask and answer. What are the data and the facts? So we're not going to make assumptions. Assumptions can lead us off of the rails. So we have to say, where are the data? Where's the facts? I'm working with a company right now. This is one of the biggest problems we're having right now. We look at our reports and we go, the data on the reports isn't right. Can we fix the data? Okay, then we go through a whole project and we go, the data on the reports is still wrong. How can we make decisions if we can't get good data, right? Inferences. We're going to talk about inferences in a little bit because it needs a little bit more explanation, but this is really where we go off the rails. What are the key concepts that we're using? Theories, models. We're using project management. We're using waterfall methodologies, Six Sigma, Agile, whatever, okay? What are the methodologies we're using? And why did we choose them, okay? So if you're working on an Agile project and you're going, this is fun, we're trying Agile, okay? My experience is I have not met very many people who can say, project that I worked on, it was pure Agile, went well, right? We tried it. I've heard horror stories. We tried that, got the t-shirt, I survived that Agile project that went to hell in a handbasket, right? You gotta know, why are you doing it? It's not to say Agile's bad, it's just saying maybe it's not good for everything. Maybe there's a hybrid approach we need to have, right? Maybe we need waterfall because we need the discipline. We got to figure that out, right? What are the assumptions? What are we taking for granted? Taking for granted, here's a great one. I was working with another company, and they were going, oh, they only measured time. Okay, this was their way to do project management. We only measure time. And you know what? Every single one of our projects are late. How could every one of our projects be late if we're measuring time? I was like, well, there's a lot more to measurement than just time in project management. I hope you guys know that, right? So I'm at a PMO meeting, and they're showing all the resources. We're looking at the resource allocation and looking at time. And they go, well, this project is late because the woman on the team, she went on maternity leave. And I'm looking at them and going, did you not know she was pregnant? Were there no clues up to this? Did you not put this in your plan that she was kind of at some point going to leave? You know, or was it a surprise? So they kind of just thought that, you know, it would take care of itself. They didn't have a plan for when this woman left on maternity leave, right? So, and then implications and consequences. What's the consequence if we do this? And this is where all your options come into play. What if we do option A, option B, option C, option D? Okay, and then we have to spell that out, okay? Points of view. frame of reference, perspectives, what do we need, what else do we need to consider? So sometimes companies are like very internally based, and they go, oh my gosh, we've got customers. Oh my gosh, we might have to actually think about our customers and learn more about them, right? Ever have any work at companies like that? Sometimes it happens. Sometimes when you're in the IT, because I've been in IT, right? You're kind of like you're in the mushrooms in the basement, right? And they toss something over the wall from the business, right? And you go, oh, we got to think about the business side of things, not just IT, right? So because I get to play, see, I'm talking about a lot of these things because I'm project manager, but I'm also business analyst, and I'm also a coach. So I kind of dance in the area depending on what's going on, which perspective I need to take, okay? And so that's what we're going to be talking about is this. So I kind of walked you through these 8 elements of the thought matrix, and you could use any one of these, okay? So what I want you to do is, I saw some people taking pictures, and that's okay. What I want you to do is actually write down, get a piece of paper, and create this matrix for yourself. Now, here's the trick. Here's the trick. I gave you words. I want you to translate the words into an image to help you remember this. So this is what's called window painting. So she's drawing a matrix, but window painting is like this, right? So we've got, 8 boxes? So you can be able to do it this way, right? And then you can fold it in half, okay? And then you've got I got all kinds of secrets. And then you've got your 8 quadrants, like this, all right? Isn't that cool? All right. So I gave you crayons and markers, and here you go. There's more paper here. So if you don't have a piece of paper in front of you, we've got more papers around here. I put out crayons and markers for you to actually create one for yourself to remind you of when you're stuck and you go, oh yeah, I got to remember. Dayle said, ask questions. This can help you remember it. All right, so put a picture in for what is a purpose. So just create a picture for it. And what is an assumption? You know, I've had a lot of people try to draw a donkey, you know, like ass, right? Yeah, okay. A donkey, okay. Concept could be like a light bulb. Inference, that's a conclusion or a solution, okay? So an inference is like, I have an example here later on, but it's, you see a man sitting on a curb, right, with a brown paper bag in his hand. Your assumption is all men sitting on corners are drunks. So your inference is that man is a drunk. That's your inference. That's your conclusion you drew from your assumption, okay? So it's an inference. It's a conclusion based on this information. Maybe right or wrong, but that's your inference.
What's the question?
Question, yes.
Question. Okay, so I hate when I started thoughts like that, but here we are. Inference thinking, or any of those where you are starting to go, requires that introspection of your own belief framework that you're imposing on others.
Yes.
How to get there.
Yes. This is called the ladder.
The
ladder of inference. Have you ever? So if you Google the ladder of inference, this is where you start at the bottom rung and you have one shred of data. Someone didn't show up at a meeting, right? And you go, oh, what's your name? Rob. Why did Rob not show up at the meeting? What's wrong with Rob? Is Rob thinking he's too good for us? He can't show up at the meeting? He's just too busy with other things? And then we just go off the track, right? And we only have one piece of data. Rob did not show up at the meeting. That's the inference. Now, why did you come to that conclusion? Because you may have an experience of all people that don't show up at meetings are just too busy for us. They're not good enough for us. That's your assumption, and that you turned into an inference. Rob is too good for us because he didn't show up at the meeting. Does that Yeah? Okay, I got it. All right. So how are we doing? Oh, good. Pyramid with a cloud. Goals and objectives. Excellent. Questions. What's this? Spreadsheet with lots of data for information. A light bulb. Okay. You don't have anything for concepts yet? All right. What's he? He's got concept. Look, cheat off of Christopher over here. All right. And then you got arrows over here for our points of view. Oh, good. Points of view. Good. All right. Excellent. All right. So does this help you to think through this? Now, could you do this with your team? Hello, we're supposed to be project managers doing team building. Do you think you could do this with a team? Yeah, this is easy, right? You're just having a whip out. You can do this and have them actually think about their thinking in a team meeting when you're stuck. You're stuck, all right? And let's say we're stuck, we're not getting forward, we're having some conflict here. Let's think about our thinking, and you would be amazed at how this would create breakthroughs for you. All right? Because people will go, oh, we didn't look at our assumptions. We got a whole list of assumptions, and we're not looking at the data. Or something else. All right? All right. How are we doing with this? All right, so I'm just going to give you a little bit more information about this so you can still think about your pictures as we're going through this. All right, so purposes. Here's some questions that we could ask about the purpose. What is our purpose in doing what we're doing? Why is this an important problem? The why behind the what. Sometimes we're so busy doing the what, the how-to, we forgot about the why. What's our purpose? Why are we doing this? All right, questions. What question am I trying to answer? A key question. What is the key question that we're trying to answer? And sometimes if you ask people, everyone will give you a different answer. Then you don't have a key question, right? You want to make sure everyone's on the same page. Information. Ask a question about how do I know this information is accurate? How do I know it's true? And assumptions. What are we taking granted for? What is assumptions? Now, we might have a whole list of assumptions, because if we created a project charter, we're doing a feasibility study, anywhere in the course of a project, we could have a whole list of assumptions. But as we're walking through the project, we should be decreasing the number of assumptions, because we're capturing more data and more facts. So we have to revisit them, okay? So we have to say, this is always great about having the availability of people, right? Anybody ever have issues with that? So you're in December. What happens in December? Right? You go, oh, we're going to end by the end of the year. Really? Really? You think that's true? Let's look at the calendar. Let's whip this out. Let's see how vacations work here. Let's see who's around. Okay? And it's not about us. What about the customers? What about the suppliers? Really, are we going to be able to get this done by the end of the year? This is a great assumption we're trying to make. Okay? Because management says we're on fiscal calendar year. We got to get this done by December 31st. If you know that as a project manager, you're going to go, December 31st. We got to roll that back. We got to be back in November. Okay? And we're cleaning things up in December, right? The things that we didn't get done in November. All right? Inferences. What is my conclusion? What am I trying to be able to conclude from all this information? And going back to, do I really have the data and the facts? So here's to help you understand what inference is, because I know it's a little bit fuzzy still. So here's my example. You see a man sitting on a curb with a paper bag in his hand, and all men are sitting on curbs with paper bags in their hands are bums. That's your assumption, right? And you inferred the man must be a bum, right? All right, let's try this out with a manager does not respond to your emails. What's your assumption? What was that? All managers who don't respond to emails? I've done something wrong, right? Yes. So if the manager doesn't respond to my email, I must have done something wrong. That's my assumption. Okay, so what am I inferring? I've done something wrong. I've done something wrong. Well, how much data do you have? None. He just didn't respond to your emails. He may have been out of the office, right? How about this one? And these on the left-hand side, I was teaching this class at Target. These actually came from the Target team members up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Because, yeah, they were having a few problems with this, all right? There was no conference bridge offered for a virtual meeting. What's the assumption on that? Yeah, I don't have to, if they don't offer a virtual bridge, I don't have to attend because I'm remote, right? What was the other one you said over here? Oh, you must attend in person. They don't want to have. So if they don't offer a conference bridge, you must attend this meeting in person. I'm not there in person, so I don't have to attend this meeting. Right? I inferred that. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Meeting planner's an idiot. I don't have to attend. The team member calls in sick on the first day of a critical new initiative. Slacker. That's our inference, but we would say people who don't show up on the first day of a critical new initiative are slackers, so that person must be a slacker. Right? You see how this works? We go down this really easy. We don't even realize we are. Right? We jump right to the inference. We don't even think about all the assumptions we're making on this. There's a great book that talks about this called Blink. Blink. If you've ever read that book, I suggest, because Blink is all about all the assumptions we make by Malcolm Gladwell. Okay, you could either read the book, get it on audio, but it's a great book that talks about the amazing kinds of assumptions that we make. All right, so concepts. What is the main idea of this discussion? What the key ideas or concepts are? And I would define this idea in the following way. So you're reading an article, you're watching the news, and you want to say, what is it they're trying to say here? I hear the words they're saying, but what's really the concept they're trying to make? So for instance, Diana, Princess Diana had the recent anniversary, the 20th anniversary of her death, right? I watched 2 programs about that on public television. One was of the bent that Diana was a floozy, she cheated, she did this, she did all this terrible, horrible stuff. I'm just making it up, okay? And the other one was totally opposite. She was great, she was wonderful, and Charles is a schmuck. Two different stories about the same person, totally different perspective on that, which is what we're coming up to, okay? So the concept was about the story about Diana, but you had to withdraw and say, what was the main idea? What were they trying to get across? So implications and consequences is, if I do this, what will happen? What are the, if X, what might be Y? If then, if this, if yes, if no, you can be able to go down those concepts there. And then points of view. What else do I need to consider? Who else do I need to consider? Okay? Oftentimes when I be in team meetings, we're like, oh, we don't need to have the IT people in the meeting. You ever been in that one? Yeah, we don't want to have them yet. And I'd be like, well, why not? Right? Couldn't they tell us whether this is like even feasible, what we're talking about here? Or maybe they have a better way or different idea to offer. All right, so this is your 8 elements of thought matrix. What do you think about this? Could this help? Could you use this right away? Yes, no, maybe so? Yeah, of course. All right. Last secret here. How much time do I have? 5 minutes? Oh, 10 minutes. All right. Be clear. Be clear. So let's see what we're talking about there. Okay. Have you ever sent an email or a text and it's been misinterpreted? No, that never happens. Why not? Why does that happen? Well, because that what I mean by certain words may be different than the person who I'm sending the information to. So for text, right? How many words can you put in a text? A lot of words these days, but think of a tweet. How many characters can you put in a tweet? How many things have we heard about tweets these days? Right? And everybody goes off and goes, oh, what did he mean by that? Right? They go off and they go, well, we have to analyze this information. So if you're in a team and you're thinking about, we want to improve accuracy of the data on this project. Well, what does accurate mean? How are we going to measure it? So we could analyze this and say, okay, let's look at all the synonyms of the word accurate. So let's get a clear definition of what we mean by accurate. And then we're going to say, well, the opposite is inaccurate. So if we don't have something that's accurate, what would be considered inaccurate? So a mistake or faulty, erroneous, or flawed. And so you're clear about these definitions. This is where you might create a glossary of terms on your projects so that you're clear about it, okay? And especially when I was at Motorola, we had 3-letter acronyms, 4-letter acronyms. We had acronyms for acronyms. And then you go to a different department and those acronyms are different in the different department. And you go, but I thought you meant that over here, but I'm in over here and it's different, right? So you need a glossary to kind of walk around and interpret things. All right, so I'm going to give you this quick little exercise, and you need to work with the person next to you. Oh, got to talk to maybe a stranger. Okay. All right, I want you to quickly come up with, okay, so one person can take the word important, and the other person take the word unimportant. And you have, what you're going to do is you're going to come up with synonyms for important. And you're going to come up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 synonyms for important. Now, why 8? Because the first 2 or 3 are pretty easy. You get into 8, you go, oh, wow. All right, so you got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. All right, how are we doing here? Anybody want to share theirs? Okay, go ahead. What's your name? Jill. Okay, Jill. Okay, let's do. Here, let's see.
I'll just talk really loud. I'll use my mom voice. Critical, significant, of note, impactful, urgent, remarkable, beneficial, and marked.
Anybody have those words? Some of them. Did you get yours?
Yes.
All right, what you got?
I have it unimportant. Mundane, expendable, useless, non-critical, insignificant, minor, low priority, and small.
Small. Ooh. Okay. So see how you have different definitions, different words? Okay. So you think this could be useful for your team when you're stuck? Everybody's on different pages. Okay. This is called the constellation, creating clarity of words with constellations. Okay. All right. Last exercise of the day. No, this session. All right. This is actually critical thinking. This is where you can use these questions to reflect on important ideas you have learned today by completing these statements. Okay? So answer these on your paper. The most important idea concept I learned today was, the idea was important because this idea connects with other important ideas I've already learned, including, I would expand on these connections between these ideas as follows. Some questions I have now that I haven't had before are, and I can get those answers to these questions by doing the following up with me if you want. Haha. Okay, but I'll put this back up there. All right, who wants to say what's their most important idea or concept that you learned today? You learned nothing. I got it. All right.
Accuracy of data. Accuracy of data.
Accuracy of data. Okay, who else? Re- Remember the accuracy of asking questions. Okay. Who else?
Ask why behind the what.
Why behind the what?
Using the grid to analyze thinking skills, because I use that all the time in meetings. We get stuck on things, and it's a great way to go through.
Yeah.
Just coming up with the grid.
And she came up with this cute little thing here. It says, come into the model, little house. Isn't that cute? Oh, I love that. All right, excellent. Okay, who else? Who else learned something? You know what the definition of learning is? I could be able to provide you this information, but until you actually use it, I don't know that you've learned it. Okay? So learning is assuming that you can be able to apply this to your real world. Okay? So I've given you some ideas of how you can use this in your real world. The idea was important. Why was the idea important? The accuracy of data. Who said the accuracy of data over here? Why is that idea important?
Because if you don't know if it's accurate, there's assumptions built in, and they may or may not lead to positive things for a project.
There you go. Excellent. Okay, so you see how this works? All right, awesome. All right, so we have a few minutes left here for questions and answers. I can answer questions on project management, business analysis, and leadership. Okay. But mostly today, what questions do you have? I heard something over here. Have any questions? Yes.
So this is geared more towards self-improvement. How do you enforce this behavior culturally the rest of the organization?
Awesome question. This is leadership, okay? So the more I do this, the more I can be able to teach other people to do this so that they can, again, then I'm always asking these questions in meetings, okay? So I'm the master of asking questions. Okay, I was in a project management group, right? Where was I? I was in a PMI Chicagoland. I was the director of social outreach, right? And we were coming up with some new concepts for PMI Chicagoland, and I kept asking questions. They said, turn that business analysis off, will you please? But I was like, but I have a lot of questions. And then some people around me started saying, you know, I kind of had the same questions too, but I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to look stupid, okay? I said, I'll look stupid for all of you, that's okay. I'm good with that. So lead by example, all right? So you don't have to do all of these things, just pick one where you think maybe your team or your company could be better at. Like maybe, you know, he said accuracy of data. Maybe there's too many assumptions, and you got to look for the data, the facts.
Then, how do you avoid the pitfalls with when you start asking questions and leading in this direction? It implies people have to be accountable. Maybe they get offended because it might be a great question or idea, but then it implies they didn't do their job or they didn't think of it, so then they get defensive, especially working with engineers. Yes. So how do you avoid that?
Yeah, those darn engineers, I tell you. Well, it's a great question. I'm working with a company right now where it's a training development company. And the first thing they were talking about was conflict. So I said, so where's the roles and responsibilities? They said, what? What? Like, what's the job descriptions? Job descriptions? We're supposed to have those for people? I'm like, yeah. So part of what I'm doing right now is because people are starting to like step on each other. I don't want to do this because I don't want to step on your toes. I said, but how do you know that he's supposed to be doing that? Okay, so stuff isn't getting done because you think he's supposed to be doing it. He goes, I'm not supposed to be doing that. I thought that she was supposed to be doing that. So we're doing I'm putting together what's called a KRA, Key Results Area. Here are the tasks that you're expected to do, and we have performance metrics in place. How do I know that you're doing your job? Is because I'm measuring you. Now, that's one of the critical components of good projects is having good metrics, going back to the data part of it. When you're talking about data, it takes the emotion out of it. So I don't feel defensive because we're talking about facts. Where it becomes emotional is when you're talking about assumptions and inferences and everybody's like gets defensive. So the more you can be able to pull the facts out, the easier it will be to have these conversations. Now it is a culture change. Culture change takes typically at least 2 years to implement. It's not a quick fix. But if you're wanting to do this, lead the charge, start with this. You can go to criticalthinking.org. There's tons and tons of books on there. They're little tiny books and they're quick, easy reads on how to do this. There's also a thing, and I'll give you one more point before we end here. The questioning that we're talking about here, and again, you can go onto criticalthinking.org website, and it's called Socratic thinking. There's a whole video on it if you want to do video, audio. There's Socratic thinking. You're asking people to think about their thinking on a regular basis. You're teaching them how to think rather than you telling them the answer. Okay? So if you've got any more questions or any concerns or anything, just there's my contact information. If you Google me, DayleBeyer.com, I'm all over the place. All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Beyer. Thank you.